Hi, I'm Anita Veivers. I'm the Executive Director here at Centacare Far North Queensland.
I'm a Townsend Operations Manager at Centacare, and yes, originally from the Territory. Grew up in Alice Springs and Darwin, and then moved over.
Why did you engage with the WOW conversation right at the beginning?
Because you came here and told us we had to.
And I was going to say before you say that, could we have some sensible answers as to why you thought you would let me in the door?
Well, why are you interviewing us, Kathy, really?
Why you let me in the door, and why you were prepared to have a conversation about the idea of WOW being in Cairns.
I guess we both have a big focus on women, and to have a conference in Cairns that was specifically for women, that was focused on women's empowerment and gave us an opportunity to showcase the programs that we run that really are focused on supporting women, empowering women and helping women to get to where they can be was great. So we were excited by the idea of being able to be part of that.
It's a conversation that's been had in Cairns before? Or?
Not at the level that was proposed by WOW. We can locally do things to assist other women participate and assist other women in leadership and all of those things, but that's at a day-to-day level. I think showcasing at a local level what is able to happen or able to do with women locally, I think that's where it was really appealing.
And I guess for us, most of the stuff we do around women is in the community services sector. And so what this offered was an opportunity to engage across sectors, so engage at the levels of government, at very different things, like the opportunity to be on a panel with Nikki Huddy looking at sort of design from that perspective around physical design and town planning as well as social design, I think was really exciting.
Sometimes to see everything that's happening and see the bigger picture. Do you find that in what you're doing?
I think it's evolved that way, yes, by necessity, and especially in remote communities. So if we do remote communities work, especially with women that we've done in the past, especially up on the Cape, you've had to draw on the other women in the community for their knowledge and their skills, especially when it's talking about well-being or family matters. And at Cairns we see that play out as well, that we have more of a relationship with women in different sectors. But this is really exchanging ideas at an innovation level around what could be achieved for women locally. And that, I think, is at a different level. We don't sit down and from people in different sectors, whether that's construction or finance, and go, well, how does that leverage use in the social services or the clinical setting? That's not something we do often.
What were the issues, first and foremost, you can remember thinking, gosh, these are the issues that we really need to get on the table for the future in terms of that bigger picture thinking and innovative thinking that are specific to women and girls in this region and the women and girls that you work with?
I mean, we work with a lot of refugee and migrant women, and I think a lot of the issues they face are very specific. And when we're working with that cohort of people, we're working not just from a women's perspective, but a cultural perspective as well, and that's been really important. So I think the opportunity for us to be able to support those women to participate in WOW and participate as part of a bigger congregation of women looking at women's issues from so many different angles was really important to us. So the women that we work with are experiencing a whole range of different issues, some related to the fact that they've had to leave some of their family behind, they've moved long distances across the world, come to a new country, but then there are also additional issues that they're facing in that cultural context of transitioning to the Australian culture. They've quite often come from patriarchal societies, and so the context of moving into a community where they have a lot more freedom, a lot more opportunity to participate in the workforce is really quite different. So it's an exciting opportunity for people, an exciting time when you're supporting people to settle into a new country. So I think the connection to WOW, the participation in that event was a brilliant opportunity for those ladies. I guess you see a lot of the different women experiencing difficulties through emergency relief from that perspective as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're not exempt from it. The issues that women are facing locally, what's happening nationally, housing's a massive issue, and it's changing every day around what it looks like here. And women want to help single mothers who can't find accommodation. Women want to help each other get into work and participate economically. And I don't think that's just a Cairns issue. I think that's a global movement that women's empowerment issues, women's empowerment discussions are open to every woman. And I think that that's where we have to take the idea that this is for a privileged few and say this is for all women, and we're here for all contexts of women. But yeah, for me, we see a lot of women who have been so disenfranchised by their situations, whether that be trauma or domestic violence or cultural barriers or whatever it is. But there's still a lot of experience there and a lot of stories that really need to have a voice, and there are a lot of women who really need an opportunity.
So I was focusing on talking about using design thinking and prototype processes and systems in the context of community services, but underpinned by asset-based community development, which sounds like a very long sort of wordy subject. But basically, it's really about recognising the assets that you have in your community, identifying what your community needs, developing and designing responses to that don't have to necessarily be finished and polished and evidence-based, but that they are practical, reasonable, can start and be built upon. And I guess that's where that prototype thinking and systems comes in. It's about trying something, seeing if it works, adapting, listening to the community, listening to the response from people, changing, and then growing that. And the context around Centacare from that perspective was very much around our School Savvy program, our Work Savvy program, and now suddenly our Formal Savvy program. So, which have all really developed in exactly that way. They've been built on the assets in our community. They've used design thinking to start and develop, and those prototype processes by listening to our customers, listening to our community, adapting, changing, and then being able to continue innovating and moving forwards. So in a nutshell, that's what I was going to talk about.
Just explain how the whole Savvy program works, because there's Work Savvy, there's Formal Savvy, and...
Sorry, that was part of, yeah. Okay, sorry.
So School Savvy was the initial project that we started with. So we started with School Savvy, and that grew from the fact that we have some emergency relief funds that we use in the community to support people that are struggling financially. As part of that contract, we were allowed to use a percentage of that for innovation. And so we were thinking about, well, what can we do that's going to support families, support people who need assistance, but isn't actually about directly giving money. And as parents, I guess, we know that it's expensive getting your kids back to school. But not only that, every year kids end up with things that they bring back from school. You have that book list at the beginning of the year, you send in 10 glue sticks and they come back with 8 at Christmas time. And then by the time January, February comes along, you go and buy more. So we knew that people had things at home that they didn't necessarily need, but there were kids who weren't starting school in that first week of the term in the new year because they didn't have the things they needed to go back to school. So that's what we wanted to do, was to try and bridge that gap. So the initial concept was about getting those resources back in from community, along with uniforms, just the basics so that kids could start school. And that was 5 years ago now, and it just took off. It really captured people's imaginations. We were overwhelmed with donations. We had local accountants coming on board, sponsoring scientific calculators for high school kids, all those sorts of things. So it really grew and grew, and using that sort of prototype thinking, each year it's progressed and changed and adapted based on the feedback that we've got. And then earlier this year, or in fact it's probably started before that, we've been running employment programs for a while, and we talked about the fact that similar to those kids starting school, people going into the workforce needed some clothes initially for good presentation at interview, confidence, all of those things. And we talked about it on and off for a while, and it didn't really take off until this year, and Emma said, we're going to do it. International Women's Day, off we go, and it just happened. So
And that led into work savvy.
it did.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was the same concept. It wasn't just the clothes. It is about how we contribute positively to somebody being employed. And it's not just the auspices of job providers. It's a whole of community effort that needs to be made around that because we all have skills and experience, whether it is presentation of how to present yourself at interviews, but it is that ongoing mentoring. And I think we rely heavily on what's being funded by government when we should really be investing in this and positively contributing to that at a place level. So that's where it came from. And then seeing other examples internationally and nationally of the same sort of work, we just adapted it to a local model. And it's also about the waste that's being produced.
And I suppose that's almost the epitome of that is formal, the formal savvy, which is the third iteration, is that right?
Yeah, and it was, I think work savvy as well, it's a lot of fast fashion, a lot of waste for women trying to keep up with how you should appear, your presentation at work, or and whether it's not just the presentation to get into work, it's having the confidence to go for a promotion or ask for a wage rise, or being able to have a seat at the table and be confident about it. So I think that there was a whole thing with work savvy that it's not just about a jacket. It's about a whole experience.
And I think one of the things that really struck me with Work Savvy was when we put that call out, and we put it out through our networks to people. So we had people collecting clothes in their workplace. So much stuff came in with tags on that was new. And I mean, I know I'm guilty too. I've got things in my wardrobe I haven't worn. But it was that idea, I think, that people thought it was too good to just send to a charity shop. But if they were donating it to Work Savvy, they knew it was actually specifically going for a purpose to a woman who was going to use it to leverage herself back into the workplace, or wherever else it was that she needed that support.
Yeah.
And I think the other area we've talked about as well that we didn't anticipate but has become something too is women potentially going into court. Women experiencing domestic family violence who've had to leave everything behind, who just need some clothes to be able to present well and go and put their case forward. So, those kind of things I think, were great as well. So, yeah, it's been exciting.
What were you hoping might come out of a festival and celebration like WOW for the community and for you moving forward?
I think when you get a lot of women together in one place, the conversation is very different. I think we experienced that recently when we went to Yarrabah. That was just an incredible day, and we had women of all different cultures talking, connecting at so many different levels. It was just fantastic, and I think I was anticipating similarly tomorrow that we would have a lot of people together, a lot of people from different backgrounds, different communities, different experiences, and really be able to just connect and share and go for a glass of wine afterwards.
Absolutely.
I think tropical women on the north, we're notoriously good at innovating. So I think that there's also that recognition of we are able to innovate, especially when you're living in regional remote areas. I think there's an element of recognition towards that, but I think at the same time, I think participating in women's issues, helping sisters out is as simple as going to your wardrobe and just giving that dress that you were saving when you lost weight or whatever it is your rationale was about it. But I think for my daughters and for my nieces and for the younger generation, it's saying that women's issues, we can contribute to other women's lives really easily. And it's not difficult, and it's not difficult to change the world. It's really simple, and we can do it in Cairns.